Hello and welcome to Training Camp Live with Slick. There is no dude, he's away for today. It will be me handling the duties of today, and we'll be talking a little bit about training camp. Our first guest will be rolling in about 5 minutes, maybe 4 minutes. That'll be Michael Washington from Dynasty Academy podcast. Then later on, we got Gene Thomas with Book What You Heard. We've also got in another two guests after this, and that will be Mark T. Washington from RichKid Clothing. He will be covering the Eagles and the NFC East. We've also got Ricky Hester, who's be covering the Packers and the NFC North. So, what's been happening? Robert Hainesy's gone down. People are panicking. Turns out it's just heat cramps. And this is going to be the thing with Bucs fans this year, because when you're made to win, you need everybody. And that's where the Buccaneers are at the moment. They're in a position now where they can go and compete with anybody, and they are in the conversation of winning. They're looking for a Super Bowl. Tom Brady's looking maybe to wind down his career here in Tampa. If not, there's no problem with that. If he does leave, then we're having to set the franchise for somebody else. But right now, we're in win now mode and try and get a Super Bowl. So every time a player goes down, when a Mike Evans goes down, we panic a little bit. And we do have a history of hamstrings going in this team quite often, from James Winston's last year, the year before, and the most recent year. The hamstring seems to be a big thing for our wide receivers. I've seen Bucs fans worry about our strength and conditioning staff and the athletic trainers not being able to get them to spec or get them ready in time or be as conditioned as they should be. But, that's the name of the game. That's the way football goes. We've also had camp reports that Carlton Davis has been shining in camp, locking up Tyreek Hill in the Dolphins joint practices. So hopefully we'll see a little bit of that on game day, on that preseason game that's coming up this weekend. And as I always say, like, comment, subscribe, then unfollow, like, and subscribe again. So I have our first guest coming on. I will let him in now. Hey, Michael Washington, thank you for joining us. You're from Dynasty Academy podcast, if that's correct. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Hang on, bear with me a moment. See if I've got... Could you try hang on.
Why wouldn't I be able to hear?
Okay, let's see how that goes. We'll see if we can get anyone else to come in. And then put it back on. See how it goes. So while Michael Washington gets himself set up again, and hopefully we'll see that this is working. Hopefully this is working or not. Yeah, we'll see how we go. So we'll continue to talk about a bit Bucs football while Mike gets himself ready to rock and roll. So what's our biggest takeaway from camp at the moment? Is it the DBs? Because they seem to have been stacking up a bit better lately. Let's see if I can get him on. Can you hear me now?
I got you.
Okay. There's that usual thing. Sometimes it just mutes one of us, doesn't it?
It was my fault. I'm an idiot sometimes, and I didn't.
Not the only
I didn't
one.
set my Bluetooth thing up, so.
No worries, man. That's cool. I was more worried thinking I might have been talking for about 4 minutes and nobody knows what the hell I'm saying. I'm just
Well, I mean, hopefully everybody knew that it was just a,
technical glitch. Hopefully, yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I haven't got the dude with me today, so it's all me on my own. This is I say my second solo show, so bear with me a little bit on this one. So tell me what you're a fantasy guy.
Yes,
you're big into your fantasy football. Tell me about which players and which position groups are under the radar this year. So give me a player from each positional group. So a QB, a running back, a tight end, a wide receiver, a D, and a kicker that's going to fly under the radar that no one's thinking about.
Are we doing the whole league? I'm doing the whole league.
Yeah, I'm just going to think of just one of each position that's going to shine that no one's going to think of.
Wow, man, that's a tough one. Quarterback, probably Kirk Cousins up in Minnesota.
He always shines a little bit, yeah.
But he's always been very close anyways, as it is, as far as what we call in fantasy a QB1. And I think that with Justin Jefferson, a new offensive-minded head coach who's very creative, Kevin O'Connell should do great things up in Minnesota. And that division being kind of in flux, Green Bay doesn't look to be as good as they normally have in the past. I think that Kirk Cousins is primed and ready to have a top 10 season. So I would say Kirk Cousins for quarterback. Running back, oh boy.
I would try and pick a drafted guy, a guy that's just recently got drafted because they don't always have that shine on them just yet.
Yeah, I mean, rookies are always a go-to, but I'm actually going to go with Saquon Barkley for the Giants. I know the Giants on paper look like they're terrible, but I expect good things with Brian Daboll as the new head coach over there, and I think that hopefully for Daniel Jones's sake, he's able to take at least a little bit of a step forward. But it should be a bounce back year for Barkley, I would imagine. Hopefully, and I think fingers crossed.
Allows him to go under the radar a little bit when you've been beaten up a few times and you're struggling to put seasons together, so you do kind of fly under that radar a little bit.
Well, his value is plummeted from the last 2 years as far as the injuries are concerned, and then just poor play by New York. So you can get great value for him compared to where he could produce at. He's a round 1 talent. You could probably get him around 3, round 4 in your startup draft. So Barkley would be a guy that I would like. Allen Robinson for the wide receiver position out in LA. He's plummeted down boards because of how awful he was in Chicago the last couple of years. But Chicago's a dumpster fire. But the Rams seem to have it together, and we know what Allen Robinson can do at his time in Jacksonville. And this is probably the best quarterback and best team that Allen Robinson has ever played for. So I expect big things out of him in the Rams. If you can get him round 8, round 9, you got great potential there. Tight end's tough. I don't really care for tight ends. Well, it's because it's Darren Waller, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, George Kittle, like those top 4. But you're going to have to overdraft them in fantasy. You're going to draft them way too early in your startup to be able to have them. And then pretty much tight end 5 through 29, it's all very close. It fluctuates. Like Dalton Schultz came out of 2 years ago, he was a tight end 27. Last year he was like tight end 5. Darren Waller was coming off waiver wires, a couple of years ago, and then he ended up being a top 5 tight end. So for the tight end position, I would probably have to say, and I don't care. Just draft one. Just draft one. At the top 5, just draft one after that.
That's fair enough.
It's such a bad position. It's like the new kicker for fantasy. Team defense, boy, this is a good one. It's team defense is tough because I play usually individual defense.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so, but for like an overall team defense, one that's kind of flying under the radar, yeah, I'm trying to think of like the Cincinnati Bengals were completely underrated last year, and people look at Cincinnati, and I know that they made the Super Bowl, but people still look at Cincinnati and they're like, was it a fluke? But they're young and they're talented. They got some. Zach Taylor's doing good things down there, and I think that defense could surprise a lot of people, and it's probably going to be available late in a lot of drafts. And kicker, I mean, I don't really care for kicker. They rotate so much. Like it's going to be a guy that comes out of nowhere that signed from the CFL or out of the USFL like mid season. The next thing you know, he's a Justin Tucker's probably your safest kicker for Baltimore. If you get a chance to draft him, but you're probably going to have to do it however deep your draft is, round 13, round 14. So
yeah, I usually go try to get my deal early, but not too early. I like to get a few slots done first if I'm doing the traditional, the usual setup. I usually try and get them. Usually, once I got a starter and then a good backup for each position, and then I'll start looking at defensive myself.
Defense and kicker are always my last two picks in drafts that have them. I play more Dynasty and more what they call Devy than I do, redraft anymore. Once you kind of take that step to Dynasty, you kind of move away from redraft a little bit. So I still play in a few leagues, just to keep my game on. But for the most part, I do Dynasty more than anything. So sometimes my valuations are off.
You never know. Sometimes they're on point though, aren't they? So,
I mean, the thing is with fantasy is once you've done it and once the knowledge sits with you. I mean, you can tackle any draft applying pretty much any strategy. It's just the strategies are so different because of how you necessarily want to build your team that it borrows pieces from it. So I do a lot of hand movements. I don't understand this. Like, I don't know. Is this a video? Like, with the podcast that we do, there's no video. So, like,
okay.
constantly doing hand movements.
You probably don't realize you're doing this, and then you see
I see it, like, waving this. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah, Ricky Bobby thinks, what do I do with my hands? Yeah, what do I do with my hands? Speaking of kickers, what's the best way to evaluate a kicker? I know you say you draft them last. How is it? High scoring O's, best accuracy?
Honestly, high scoring O's is tough because if you have a team that scores a lot of touchdowns, like, you're probably not going to get a team that kicks a lot of field goals. No. So there's always been some debate about amongst the top, teams like Baltimore have always been so run heavy, and teams like Pittsburgh have always been so run heavy that their offenses tend to die down once they hit like the red zone. So usually if you draft one of those two kickers, you're pretty much safe to get a guy that's going to probably finish top 5, top 7. But it's so hard with the way that the league changes so often with offensive philosophies that you can't really predict the kicker side of things as much because it's hard. You probably want to go for like a mediocre offense or what appears to be a mediocre offense that has the potential to.
You want a bad red zone team.
Well, I don't even necessarily want to say a bad red zone team, but a good defensive team too, surprisingly, because they get the turnovers. Yeah. So if you have that if you have that balance, like Baltimore right now is, Lamar Jackson's been fantastic, but that run game is a little suspect with a couple injuries, and then the wide receiving core is a little like a big giant question mark. They traded Hollywood, Rashad Bateman's the number 1, so you're looking at a team with question marks, but they have a good defense. They always have a good defense. So if they can get the turnovers, it's not necessarily going to translate to touchdowns. So that's why Justin Tucker is usually pretty safe. Other than that, though, evaluating kickers, man, I don't know. I guess you just throw something at the wall and hope it sticks.
Hope it sticks. Fair. That's absolutely fair. Speaking of Dynasty, explain a little bit to people who don't really know what Dynasty is. I've never been in a true Dynasty league. We have a league, my personal league, my family league or what have you, that we have over here in the UK with my wife and a few other friends of ours.
Go ahead. What were you saying? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
All right. So they didn't want to do Dynasty, which I was up for, and keepers and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't really know how to set it up or anything like that because it seems a little bit confusing because I'm the commissioner of my league and I hadn't really learned more about it. What would you say is for starters getting into their Dynasty? What would you like? What would be the stepping stones?
So honestly, the best strategy that I came up with, or what worked for me, was I actually took over what they call orphan teams in already established Dynasty leagues. So they're basically teams that have been abandoned. The owner that was there left the league for various reasons, and they're looking for a new owner. Because then you kind of come in with a team that's already been established. You can kind of look at your roster and go, okay, this is what I like. Now, Dynasty is your roster rolls over every year. So you only have a rookie draft. You're not redrafting your whole team again. It's a little bit different than keeper leagues, or and it's completely different than redraft because you don't keep anybody in redraft. Pardon me, real quick.
Sorry?
got something stuck in my throat. I apologize.
No, I've been sipping on beer the whole time, so it's all good.
Dynasty has a, you roll over each year. So for me, like I got into taking over a team and kind of just learning the ropes with trade values because they're much different when you're trading. But basically, you're looking to try to dominate a league for a few years, and other than that, you're basically the GM. You make all the decisions. You make every who to start, who to sit. You waiver wires, trades, rookie draft picks. You go through that process. So it's almost like you're a GM.
That's how I've always heard it described as is the whole GM thing. I think in England it's not as popular as just the basic thing, so it's really hard to kind of find a league. And it seems to be a bit more popular now. It seems to have grown in popularity. There's a lot of more Dynasty podcasts out there now.
Yeah, Dynasty is one of the with fantasy. There's always evolving situations. Redraft was the first start, and then keepers came along. Like, what happens if we keep this person? And then you get your little twist on that, and your variations, and then you get your Dynasty League, which is your next step up, which is a pretty basic Dynasty League. You do most of the time offense only. Sometimes you get the IDP leagues, and then from there, you get your variations off of Dynasty, like your Devy leagues, which are you draft the rights to college players, and then they come up to you. Campus to Canton is kind of slowly starting to get into a new one where college players score for your team as well. So you're playing college fantasy football and NFL at the same time. So that's actually pretty neat. And then you got like vampire leagues and Frankenstein leagues. Like you get all these variation leagues. Oh yeah, people get creative with it because they get tired of just the same old thing. So they do a bunch of things. Yeah, but Dynasty is a good start to your next step, not just jumping into another league, like one of the other more advanced leagues.
Okay, fair enough. And the one thing I always found that when I've spoken to people who've ever been in one is they usually find that in their league, once a team starts to fade from existence, as in the sense of they're not getting the wins, that's when owners walk out.
It's a revolving door with that. It's so hard. Like I'm one of those owners that like if my team is terrible, I'm sticking it through to try to make it better. But there's a lot of people out there that when you tackle Dynasty with the same mindset of redraft, so you go for your veteran players, you go for your older players. Once they start phasing out, if you haven't done enough to bring in some youth, to those values dissipate, and you have absolutely no chance of being able to trade those guys to any other team because the other teams are likely going after the younger players that are coming up. So it makes it very hard, and a lot of times you'll see players just, well, I won the league, once, whatever, I'm good with that, peace out. Or, they just look at their team and they're like, oh man, I got Adrian Peterson and Todd Gurley, like it's time for me to go, so it's a revolving door. It's hard. There's really no way to guarantee getting 12 guys all the time or 10 guys all the time, depending on whatever league size you play with. We do our best. We do our best to try to get the good people around. Like I have a group of people that follow me pretty much almost at any league that I open up. So it's a good 6-7 people. It's just, it's hard though to find them sometimes.
That's understandable. Is there anything you can do to kind of make the level? I won't say level the playing field, because obviously you're going to be your draft pick, so you're going to do a similar thing to the NFL. If you suck, you end up with a better pick, I would imagine. And priority and waiver wires. What about? Is there any other things you can do to kind of keep people more interested, so they don't just go, you know what, I've lost 5 seasons in a row and I've been in double-digit losses. I'm going to walk away. I'm done.
So it's much easier to keep the interest in some of the Devy leagues that we're in comparison to the actual flat out Dynasty leagues, because with the Devy leagues we spread out the drafts and we give like we hold the rookie draft still after the NFL rookie draft, but then we run a randomized order. At least this is how we do it at Dynasty Academy. We run a randomized order for the Devy draft that takes place in December. So it breaks it up. So it gives you an opportunity to chance most of the time we don't allow trading of future Devy picks in Devy leagues because that protects the integrity of the league. So a guy can't trade off multiple years down the road and then bounce, and then somebody trying to come in and they don't have any draft picks or any way to be able to mold the team. But with Dynasty, it's much harder because you're only dealing with rookie drafts. You can, I know some commissioners, they'll implement, future, if you trade a future pick, you have to pay for that year.
Right.
Some people do that. I'm not a big fan of that, but I understand the reason why it's there. Protecting the integrity of your league is just trying to be transparent as a commissioner, communicate with your people on a consistent basis, and just build relationships. Like, just basically, like, hey, I'm human too. Like, this is my solution. I messed up, or this is my solution for your mess up. Like, let's, poll the league and try to eliminate that for future in case it pops up, basically.
That's fair enough. Tell me more about, is it the Demi League you said?
Devy. D-E-V-Y, Devy, yeah. No, so Devy leagues are basically you're it's like you're acquiring rights to college players. So, for instance, a couple years ago in one of my Devy leagues, we did our draft in December, and I drafted Breece Hall. So now that Breece Hall is in the NFL, I have the rights to him on my roster. I can decide to do what I want with him. I can trade him. I can drop him. I can do whatever I want. If I didn't like where he got drafted, well, obviously I like where he got drafted. I think he's the best running back in this class. So I get to keep him. But then there's like other guys like Sam Howell, who I drafted, in one of my other Devy leagues back when he looked like he was going to be the first overall pick. Now he's round 6 to Washington. I mean, it's not a terrible spot, but it's not, with Carson Wentz there, if Wentz ends up playing well, then, does Howell ever get the chance? So it makes it a little bit tougher of a decision. But that's essentially all that is as far as Devy leagues are concerned. It's a little more advanced. You don't necessarily need to watch college football to get it, but you probably should have a good understanding of what college football and who the players are at the college level to play in a league like that.
That's fair enough. I'd imagine quarterback is probably one of the hardest ones to judge from college football.
Oh, man, it's one of those positions that it's either it's either really easy to predict or it's a pain in the ass. And pardon my language if that's a censure word or whatever, but I don't know what the talks are on your show.
It's late, so swear words are fine.
Oh, okay, all right. But it's one of those positions. Like Spencer Rattler, for instance, at Oklahoma a couple years ago, was looking like, Sam Howell. I mentioned, and now Rattler has a chance to at least bounce back at South Carolina, but it doesn't look promising. Keaton Slovis is another guy. He looked like he was going to be a top 10 pick at the NFL level at USC, and Jackson Dart came along and kind of shuffled him out, and now he's at Pittsburgh. So, but then you have your guys like Peyton Manning, like pretty much came out of high school, and you knew that this guy was going to be a first overall pick. Guys like not Joe Burrow. I'm trying to.
I put you on the spot now, haven't I?
No, but there's guys that were high recruits, basically 5-star recruits that come out. They have that ability. And Caleb Williams, the guy that just came out of a couple years ago from Oklahoma, he transferred to USC. He looks like he's going to be a first overall pick. So unless he has a catastrophic failure, you could pretty much write in that Caleb Williams is going to be the guy. Bryce Young is the guy I was thinking of for Alabama. He looks like he's going to be a top 2-3 pick next year in the NFL. So some guys just have that writing on the wall, and the guys that you think might have the writing on the wall don't always come out. So it's tough. You got to at least
study a little bit.
You got to at least understand the position and how it looks when it comes to what the NFL is doing, because the NFL has changed so much. Like guys like Matt Ryan are no longer really the top guys that you go look for. So if you have a guy that just goes back there and looks like a statue without athleticism, chances are he's probably not going to have as much NFL appeal nowadays. But back when, Matt Ryan first came out, obviously he was
Matty Ice.
Matty Ice,
That's it. It's as simple as that. Yeah, it does seem to the position does tend to evolve, and now we're seeing a lot more quarterbacks running. And obviously, me personally, I don't like it. Just because I'm like, all it takes is that one hit to break you.
I don't like it for certain players. Like Jalen Hurts is basically a running back playing quarterback, and then I don't mind it so much for a guy like Kyler Murray or even Lamar. But Lamar runs too much for my liking. It's just when they subdue him or they pull him back, I think that's when he's at his best, because he's a better thrower than people realize. And I know that there's a lot of knock on his whole accuracy and whatever, but I was watching Hollywood Brown out there last year, and there was about 5 passes that were beautifully dropped right into his hands that he just let go right through them. I mean, he dropped passes on a consistent basis. There was a whole highlight reel on Twitter about it when he got traded to Arizona. So I think Lamar's better at passing than people realize. A guy like Kyler Murray can sling the ball. He's just so small. I don't want him running. But he's so electric in the open field. It's so hard to be like, don't do that.
He's got those quick feet, and you don't always want it. So Russell Wilson started to stop doing it as much as he used to, because I think he realized it was they just game plan for it after a while.
Well, Russell Wilson had to, because Seattle had no offensive line for the longest time. I mean, they kind of threw him to the wolves. It's kind of actually really remarkable as to what Tom Brady's been able to accomplish with the way that the game has changed and the defenses have played the quarterback position, in order for him to still succeed at the level that he's at. But his release is so fast, and his process, he's basically a computer out there.
Oh, for sure.
Like, he's just a computer.
Absolutely. So talking about players, who do you see? Give me your big 3 MVP candidates for fantasy football this year.
Oh, fantasy football. That's a good one. That's a good question in fantasy football. Josh Allen out in Buffalo. In most standard formats, a guy scored over 400 points last year. He should duplicate the exact same. They only got better. And whenever you get better as a team that's already looking like you don't have a whole lot of holes, it's going to come together for you. And Buffalo should be in talks again for a possible Super Bowl run. So that usually translates well outside of any type of injuries, of course, because injuries are unpredictable. You never know where they're going to come from. I would say, Josh Allen would probably be one of my top ones. I'll give you one from each position, because I think there's a possibility from one from each position.
I think that's fair. If you just name 3 quarterbacks, you're going to name 3 quarterbacks.
I mean, for the most part, quarterbacks are going to be 1, 2, 3 as it is, but I guess it really depends on the league. I like what Jonathan Taylor did last year for the Colts, but I really think at running back that this year you could see a guy like Dalvin Cook or Najee Harris from Pittsburgh, depending on how that offense looks with the quarterback spot, could really, really put a team over the top and be what we call league winners. Dalvin Cook, to me, has been a league winner for the last 2 or 3 years, but he's been held back by coaching staff. I think this year he has a coach that's going to open things up. Justin Jefferson's coming into a year of his own. Minnesota's going to be a very dangerous team, and people are sleeping on them because it's Kirk Cousins at quarterback, but they are a dangerous team. And with Kevin O'Connell at the helm, that team should open things up on offense, and it's going to be only uphill for Dalvin Cook, assuming the system clicks and there's no injuries. Like, that's the big thing. With Cook, it's you have to worry about that. But that would be the 2 at the running back spot that I would really look at. And wide receiver, Cooper Kupp did it last year. I don't see why Cooper Kupp couldn't do it again. But what I'll do is I'll give you a guy that is going to be an unsung MVP. Like, he may not win MVP in your league, but he's a guy that's definitely going to put you over the top. And I mentioned him earlier, and that's Allen Robinson. As long as he stays healthy, that guy has got wide receiver 1 potential. You could get him as your wide receiver 3, even maybe your wide receiver 4. And he's a guy that's going to put your team over the top and put you in contention as long as he stays healthy and they're there at the end of the year. So those would be the guys that I would kind of look at for being.
You're not going to go over tight end, are you?
You know what I mean? I could list off like, Jamar Chases and Justin Jeffersons of the world, and the guys that are the top, Cooper Kupps. I could mention him again and be like, they're going to do all that, again, but wide receiver is so deep that it's not one wide receiver that ever puts you over the top. It's the balance of how many receivers you have that you can rotate in and out when you need to.
Okay. I get that. That's fair enough. And if you were in the standard league, normal league setup, the redraft league setup, who's your number one pick if you had the first overall?
So 1 quarterback leagues are different than Superflex or two quarterback leagues. So I would avoid quarterback till like at least round 7. And I would probably go running back. So it would depend on where I'm picking. Because this year, to me, there's only 3 running backs that I feel like are really worth first-round picks. Mm-hmm. And that's Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, and Javonte Williams. You could make the case for a guy like Derrick Henry because we've seen what he's been able to do. You could make a case for a guy like Christian McCaffrey, who people are hoping returns to 2019 form. And you can make a case for a guy like Dalvin Cook, who I just mentioned was a league winner at the end of the first round. But I only feel comfortable taking 3 really in the first. And then other than that, it's really wide receiver. I mean, your Jamar Chases, your Justin Jeffersons, your Cooper Kupps, which I mentioned earlier. And you have, AJ Brown is going into a new situation. People still really love him. I don't like Jalen Hurts as a quarterback, but he's a guy who's still going to produce.
Yeah,
he did it with Ryan Tannehill. Chances are he's going to produce. So if you were taking him at the end of the first, you could possibly do something like that as well. Once you get past like 7 or 8, it's kind of a wild card.
Yeah,
I feel like you could pretty much take anybody. I just wouldn't take quarterback, but Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes they're all gonna. Justin Herberts might slide into the. They might slide into the end of the first just because people love quarterbacks. So,
yeah, your big like playmakers, like you just mentioned, those 2 guys, and then you've also got Lamar Jackson. He does it on the ground as well. They usually do pump up a lot of yards.
Yeah,
so people bite on that a little bit. Yeah, I've always gone running back first. Running back, if there's another good running back on the table at that point in time, depending on. I do hope that some people go quarterback a little bit early and you do go like on a tight end frenzy because it's Travis Kelce or whatever. That's when I want to take advantage and maybe snag a Mixon or somebody else.
Yeah, and Joe Mixon's where his average draft position is right now. He's fitting in with like the J.K. Dobbins and the Cam Akers and the like that whole kind of like group, the DeAndre Swifts of the world. So they're all like in the 2nd and 3rd round, which is great if you do go wide receiver in the first, because there's chances are you're going to get some high upside guys in round 2 or 3. But I just feel like the positional scarcity of running back, I would much rather, like be happier getting a running back, and then going wide receiver, than I would wide receiver, running back. The strategy changes for a lot of people. There's a strategy out there called 0 RB strategy, where you don't take a running back till like round 9 or round 8. But I don't like that strategy because you really have to hit. If you don't hit, then you're at a complete disadvantage at a certain position that usually requires at least start 2.
Yeah, for sure.
So that makes it tough. And that's one of the reasons why I always push running back first, because do it. Just do it, get out of the way, and put together a wide receiving group because it's so much deeper.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. You don't want to go too early on your wide receivers because of how deep the wide receivers are. There's a lot of guys who are going to get 1,000 yards.
Yeah, and I'm not even touching quarterback till like round 7, round 8. Matthew Stafford went round 8 last year in most 1 quarterback leagues, redraft leagues, and he would have won you the league last year. I mean, he was and right now, the last time I saw, he was QB 12, so he's the 12th quarterback taken off the board in most drafts right now at this point. So
I keep that in mind.
You can wait on a guy like Stafford, and if it's not like a Stafford, Kirk Cousins is another guy, good, nice little sleeper that you can go get. Even Tom Brady, Tom Brady slid to round 6 in a few drafts, round 5, round 6, because everybody's expecting that drop off, which it could come. I mean, it happened really fast with Peyton Manning, so it's possible it could come.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look like it's going to anytime soon. So,
And Michael, welcome. Thank you for your time. And where can we find you?
So we are on Twitter at Dynasty Academy. The E in Academy is a 3. Honestly, we're not very good at the whole social media thing yet. We're working on it. We're trying to get there. You can also get me on Facebook at Michael Washington. I have the icon of the Calgary Stampeders right now as well. But yeah, I mean that's basically it. You can catch our podcast too, by the way, Dynasty Academy. It's on Anchor and it's also on Spotify, which I actually didn't know about until just recently. I didn't realize it was set up yet, but we're on Spotify as well. It's just Dynasty Academy, with a symbol of our symbol or whatever.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for coming on and talking a little bit of fantasy football with us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
No worries, Michael. See you soon, man.
See you.
Cheers. Bye. Well, that was Michael Washington from Dynasty Academy podcast, talking all things fantasy football. So hopefully it'll be time for our next guest to come in. Our next guest will be Gene Thomas from Book What You Heard. Hopefully he'll be coming in and we get to talk a little bit of Buc football. We want to talk about Hainsey's cramps. We want to talk about Mike Evans. We want to talk about Tom Brady and if he could potentially suit up in this Dolphins game. We want to talk a little bit about, could a JC Tretter be coming into town? We want to talk a little bit more about the positional battles that are coming up. We want to talk about this DB unit that is making plays all over the field at the moment. And we want to talk about who's kind of flying under the radar, which position isn't really getting its flowers, which position, which I think everyone's going to be talking about, will probably be the wide receiver group because everyone wants to know who's going to stay and who's going to nay. Who's a yay and who's a nay. So hopefully it'll be on soon. Until then, we'll just talk a little bit about Bucs football. We got very lucky today and we got to see, I say lucky, but we got to see Ryan Jensen in a knee brace at training camp. I don't know about anyone else, but for me, that feels pretty good. But saying that, it doesn't mean a lot. Ryan Hainsey went off. And then it's the next man up. And I'm just wondering if the Buccaneers front office is sat there going, I know it's only heat cramps, but that's all it takes is something a little bit bigger. And then we really are at the creek without a paddle. So the Buccaneers have a lot to think about. We also want to talk about which member of the Buccaneers team isn't generating enough buzz. Now, a lot of people are talking about this player, that player. Sean Murphy-Bunting's now gone, being less slotty, a slot defender, or nickel, as some people call him, or dime backer, and is being more on the true outside. We got to see that Colton Davis has been matching up pound for pound with Tyreek Hill, who I think everyone, if you're outside of the Bucs, felt that matchup was going to get abused because of what happened, not in the Super Bowl, obviously, but what happened in that primetime game back in the 2020 season. But he's been making plays. He always has made plays, and I think it depends on the defense that he's in, to be honest. He really shines when he's man-to-man. He gets to get his arms in. He's a very physical guy. And you could see the difference over year from year. He was a little bit too handsy in year 1 and year 2, and then he started to really get that discipline in. And that's probably because in college you can be a little bit more handsy because of the ruling system that's in play of how much contact there is and when you have to kind of stop contact. But for him, I think he's really started to master that kind of press man coverage and be able to stick to glue to guys. And the one thing we've always seen is he has dropped a couple of balls. He seems to be snagging them in practice, and we start to see a little bit more production from him from that point of view. So for me, Colin Davis is one of my favorite players. So I'm excited for him to really kind of go out there and stake a claim for that number 1 cornerback in the league. Hopefully we see it. and we get a nice little taste. If not, he'll still be making plays. It's just who do you like more? There's a lot of cornerbacks out there, and there's a lot of very good ones. I've always said there's a reason why there's only one position in the American football that has the most black players. It's cornerback. I believe there wasn't for a while a cornerback that was white for a long time, almost like I think 10 years. It just goes to show, and everyone thought that was running back. But we're hearing good things in camp about him. We're hearing good things in camp. But the one thing I haven't heard a lot about is Shaq Barrett. I haven't heard nothing about him. I haven't heard much about that D line, to be brutally honest. I haven't read too many stories coming out of training camp about those two guys. Hopefully Gene Thomas will be on. If not, we'll just keep carrying on. We'll talk a bit more about Bucs football and what we're hoping to see. We still have Mark T. Wilson to come in from RichKid Clothing. And then later on, we got Ricky Hester for the Packers, who will be covering the Packers and the NFC North for us. Hopefully Gene's going to come on. He's just got technical difficulties. I haven't gotten in yet. I'll just check what we got. If not, we'll keep talking Buccaneers football. Please, guys, comment, like, subscribe. Hi, Fred Swayze. You heard Barrett look good today. I hope so. I obviously I'm not at training camp. Have you been at training camps, Fred? Fred? But no, I just haven't heard a lot about him. I think he'll always be good. I just don't think we got that too much to worry about. It's just you're hearing a lot more about the DBs. You're hearing more about the linebackers. We're hearing a lot about the wide receiver position. Even the tight end room has been pretty quiet, and we're hearing about plays being made, but in comparison to like how much hype there is about the rest of the positions out there. Whereabouts are you, Fred? Because I'm in the UK, so I'm not seeing it. I'm not going to training camp any day soon, or any year soon. But that being said, we still got to see what Joe Tryon-Shoyinka is going to produce for us. He's been pretty quiet. He's had, I've heard just a quiet camp. I'm not hearing a lot, and that's why I'm like that linebackers. I've not heard a lot in the sense of the edge positions. So for me, I wouldn't say it's a concern because I know that we all know that Barrett can perform. That's a fact. It's more about Shoyinka making that next level jump. Like I believe he got 6 sacks. Now we want to try and get him to that double digit. In Delaware. Also, you go down for the regular season. That's cool. Like I won't be able to go down to a regular season in 2024, and that's when the family go to Orlando and Tampa Bay. So me and the wife and the 2 kids will be taking a little trip, and hopefully we'll get to meet hopefully some of y'all out there and have a couple of drinks and a good laugh and talk a bit of Bucs football live and in person. But the questions I want to know is, like, if I'm asking someone who's been at training camp, I want to know who's our unsung hero. Who's the guy who's flying under the radar? Nobody's talking about. Is it Zion McCullum? Chris Godwin State. Very true. Very true. But hey, I'll raise a beer to that. I'd like to point out other beers are available. I know the rest of the boys, they like their Bud Light on here. I don't think Gene Thomas is coming because it is quite late. It's 10 minutes overdue already, so I'm not sure he's coming. But hey, what's the buzz around camp? Are we feeling good about Jensen wandering around? He's shown his face. Does that mean it's not as bad as we all thought? Why is it taking so long to hear something? Is it just because of the swelling going down? We heard about Chris Godwin's leg within a day, I think. Even hours, if I'm not mistaken, of his ACL injury. So I think a lot of people kind of like holding on and go, why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long? And I can imagine swelling can make a massive difference. It really can. But it depends on which group you're in. Are you a Robert Hainsey guy, or are you hoping that the Buccaneers put their hands in their pockets and get a JC Tretter or someone of that nature? He's still on the market, but you've got to keep into account that another player goes down. That's a center. JC Tretter is going to be top of their list too, and then the Buccaneers will have to make a decision and move because that guy's not going to stay there forever. So the one thing I would like to ask, as well, what does everyone think the Buccaneers' biggest weakness is? Like, what is the thing that's going to cause us the most problems as a football team going forward in this season right now? Is it the tight end group because it's not got Gronk in it anymore? It's not going to be the wide receiver group. That room is stacked. It should never be the wide receiver room. Is anyone concerned about the amount of hamstring injuries that players in the wide receiver position have had in the last few years? Because I know Buccaneers fans have said to me that they don't feel that the strength and conditioning staff have them ready. I personally don't know nothing about strength and conditioning at a professional level. It does seem a little odd, but then I'm not sat there looking at other teams and going, because that's the one thing as I've always tried. I try to do a bit better of when I'm learning a bit more about football or other teams, is when people say we have a bad draft, then I go and have a look how other teams who are successful draft. And then I kind of go, well, that guy was a nobody. That's Joe Nobody. That's nobody. That's nobody. That guy's on the team but hasn't done anything. And then I sit around and go, we actually aren't that bad at drafting. It's just, we just, as a fan base, want every player to produce. We want every player to be a starter if we can, because we have that mindset of if we strike gold, we strike gold. And if you have a draft where you draft 4 starters, then you struck gold. And if you can do that year in, year out. Thank you, Corey Brown, defensive back, cornerback. So Corey, are you feeling good about Colton Davis's lockdown of Hill, or do you think it's just a bit of camp? It's nothing, or are you going, yeah, that's a positive thing? It's more, you want to see more of the same. We're hearing there's a lot of interceptions happening. The defense seems a little bit more in tune at the moment with each other. Fred Swayze more. He's saying special teams are always weak. Everything else looks solid. Hopefully the injury bug stays away. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what part of special teams you're looking at. Kicking seems better than it's always been. Punting has been solid for a very long time. It's return game. We don't seem to get much out of our return game. It's almost like, I'm not saying that's the mindset, is that we're in this situation where we're going, well, Tom will spin it down the field, but you want to get as much production out of it as possible. Hopefully Darden's come on a bit more. We're hearing how he's come on as a wide receiver, and a lot of the play of the days have been at least one or two of them have been about Jalen Darden, posted up by the Buccaneers, that he's been making plays as a wide receiver. Now, I don't know about what that means for him as a punt returner, kick returner. But I think our punt coverage has always been pretty solid. We get fumbles out of it. We do produce pretty well from that. Kicking has got better. I think we just want to be in that position where we can kick a longer field goal if we need to, rather than all right, we're anything more than 50 is kind of done. We're not going to do it. We're not going to attempt it. I think for me, that's somewhere you want to get better at, because I think great teams, when they're in that dogged battle and it's a really tight game, that's when you need that kind of player to go, I can knock you a 55er plus, and I can do it consistently. I think that's really important for a team that wants to go and win a Super Bowl, in my opinion. But yeah, special teams. once they solve kick returner, punt returner, I think we'll be solid. But it's who else is available to play to go in that role. I've heard that Scotty Miller's been lining up and catching some punts here and there. Everyone's trying to make this team. I'd say they're going to keep 6 wide receivers. I don't see them keeping 7 because I see them keeping 4 tight ends. And I use our 6th round draft pick in the tight end room because he's either going to be that or he's going to be technically a fullback. But when you look at it that way, I see the Buccaneers holding on to 3 quarterbacks, potentially 2, but probably 3 quarterbacks. They'll probably hold on to 4 backs. They'll probably hold on to 6 wide receivers and 4 tight ends. And then it's always interesting how a team goes with their offensive line. Do they go a 1-for-1? So you end up having a backup for each position. So you go tackle, guard, center, guard, tackle. And then you have that as your backup. So that means you've got 10 in total, 10 players in total. So I always find that fascinating from teams on how they want to tackle that situation. Hopefully our next guest, which will be Mark T. Wilson from RichKid Clothing, hopefully he'll be in next, and we can have a chat with him about the all things Eagles and NFC East, which I'm quite interested in, to be honest. All the Bucs cornerbacks got to stay healthy, no injury like last season. Good Bucs add veteran Logan Ryan and draft Zion McCollum. Absolutely. I remember when we drafted McCollum, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. I remember when we drafted him, and a lot of people were really excited. Me personally, not against Zion. I felt the cornerback pick probably should have been when we drafted the kicker. I felt the kicker would still be there where we picked up Zion. But hey, we got what we wanted. It doesn't matter where you draft them as long as they produce. But I remember there was probably a few Buccaneers fans at the time when we drafted You live in Eagle country, and those fans are nuts. But passionate. Passionate's always good. There's passionate and there's stupid. Being silly is probably not the best way to go about it. But hey, passion's always a good thing to have. Everyone's got a different way of being a fan, I guess. Some people, are way more wear their emotions on their sleeve and get out there and really kind of scream at the TV and what have you. Some people are like, I'm done. I'm going to sit down and crack out a whiskey and just chill and just reflect on it. Some people come on the internet and attack players. Some people go on and have a bit of a fight on the internet and find as many people as they can find or come on shows like this and have a rant. But that's fine. It's all about being a fan, and there's nothing wrong with it. So my question to anyone who's watching it in the comments: who do you think? Who do you think is the position that's the unsung heroes? Which is the position that's not getting enough flowers? Which is the position that's not getting enough noise that you think is quietly brewing and becoming better and getting better on a regular basis? And what's the biggest thing you guys want to see out of the Dolphins game? So you're going to sit there and put the Dolphins game. What is the story you want to see? Is it Tom Brady playing? Is it how we match up against their wide receivers because they did get themselves some receivers? Hopefully it'll be time for our next guest. But until then, we'll continue to talk all about Buccaneers football. I am on my own, so do bear with me. If the next guest doesn't come in, I'll probably call it at this point because I don't think I can just talk about Bucs with not as much people talking with me all the way till until the late hours of 10:20, and therefore, so if the next guy doesn't come in, then I'll have to call it short. I do apologize. I will go to the hour mark and then probably move on from there. But Mark T. Wilson, if you're out there from RichKid Clothing, please join in. Much appreciated. If you can, we do want to talk a little bit about other teams. We want to know what you're thinking. We want to know what you're thinking. What is your quarterback worth it? The trade that you made to get your wide receiver, is he worth it? Was it worth it? These are questions that we all want to talk. Fred Swayze, I want to see how Trash does. Not sold on him yet. So that's your takeaway from the Dolphins game. You want to see him suit up because you want to see what he can produce. Absolutely, that's a fair question, because this guy is kind of being molded. Is going to be the future of our franchise potentially. Yeah, I'm not saying he is, but we're definitely having a conversation that he is going to be one of those people that's going to fight for that spot. But by all reports, he's not having the greatest of camps. So I just go with one more comment. I got Ben from our. I have worn this shirt for a week, but it has had respite. It's not. I've not just worn this. I'd like to point out that I can't wear this in my workplace. I'll melt. This thing's nylon. It makes you sweat. But I'm thinking it's going to be my vibe going forward in shows. So without further ado, I bring in Mark T. Wilson from RichKid Clothing, here to talk about. Have I got him in? There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I needed you, man, because I was my guest before just kind of did not turn up, so I had to just talk for about 40 minutes.
Oh no, you're all right. That's good. I mean, yeah.
So you tell us about yourself.
Lord mercy, where do I begin? Mark Wilson, co-owner of RichKid Clothing Line, also do sports writing as well. I was brought on the show to talk about the Eagles.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think the Eagles are your team.
Yeah, I love my team, man. Live in New York, Bronx, New York. Pretty much it. Not too much to me, man. Thanks for having me, though.
Love it. No worries, man. Much appreciated. To be honest, I quite like talking other teams, because I think from a Bucs point of view, all we do is talk Bucs, so it kind of gets a bit stale. It's the stories that have always been circulating. So, my big question for you then: does it really feel like it's going to be Cowboys and the Eagles battling out for the top spot, or is there a team that could sneak in there and everyone's not talking about?
Yeah, no one. As far as the NFC East or the NFC in general. Oh, I'm trying to block this light. As far as the NFC East goes, it's Cowboys and Eagles all day long. The Giants. I'm about to say the Redskins. Oh my God, Commanders. That's Commanders, right? Yeah. They're down, but in the division, it's going to be Eagles and the Cowboys from start to finish.
So there's going to be some battles there then. So that's going to be quite exciting.
Yes, great rivalry. It's like watching Tampa Bay and let's say New Orleans go at it.
Oh, we don't talk about that one. We haven't won that one in a while. We only won it when it mattered.
Ooh, but that's a good rivalry right there.
I mean, it's certainly an interesting one.
Yeah,
absolutely. So AJ Brown's had a great camp. He seems to put up a good rep with your quarterback Hurts. How are you feeling about him? Do you feel that he is ready for that? He was a number one, a wide receiver one before, but do you think he's really kind of solidified that spot because he's still got people breathing down his neck?
Oh man, I think this is going to be a good one because we got Smith on the other side.
Yes.
So you cannot double team Brown and leave Smith one-on-one coverage.
Oh.
So that's going to be big for Brown. Then also the Eagles have the number 1 rushing offense in the NFL. So now you can no longer stack the box against the Eagles running attack. So so Brown, he's going to have free roam. And then you got Goddard coming across the middle as the tight end. Man, it's about to get ugly.
Yeah.
I hope.
So a real question is, were you happy about the trade originally? So go and draft night. Because a lot of people are going to say yes because he's a good player, right? But on the day, you're sat there at draft day, you got your hat on, you're ready to cheer for your team to see who they're going to pick. You probably have a pick in your mind that they're going to go for, and they do the trade. Were you happy about the trade at the time, or were you a bit, we could have done better, we could have got this guy instead, or were you like, no, that is lights out, that's exactly the thing we needed to do?
Oh, you got to remember, as a fan, I was ecstatic. You know, I came up with Cunningham, and at that time he had like Fred Barnett. Then we did McNabb, and he had Deshaun Jackson. But prior to that, we really haven't had a great wide receiver. Smith is good, but he was rookie. So I'm like, yo, we need a veteran in there. If we could pick someone with the 13th pick, he's still a rookie. So that means we got a second-year player in Smith, and now we got a rookie. That's not going to cut it. I wrote an article months back that we needed a veteran receiver, and Howie went out and got it. So I was happy. Okay,
that's cool. So what is your take on a lot of people talking about a trade for one of your other wide receivers in Jalen to the Broncos? Do you think there's any truth in it, or do you think it's just talk, or maybe there's just been some talk between teams?
I think it's truth because he has not lived up to his potential. We got guys like Hightower and Ward that has came in and taken his reps now. Now you got Brown and Smith. He's kind of a forgotten man now. We really don't need you. You haven't done anything. So if we're going to change to the Broncos, let's get some picks out of it and let's move on.
So you see, where do you see, if Brown was still on your roster on the 53 cut, yeah? Where do you see him? Where do you see him stack up?
He
ain't starting, obviously. We know that. How whereabouts in the roster for? Because you're going to probably keep 5 to 6.
Yeah. Man, I give him 4th.
You give him 4.
Yeah, okay. I give him 4. Well, I just put him as a punt returner.
Okay. So not much value, so you may as well get something for him.
Yeah,
that's how you let Rager
go. Yeah, let Rager go.
Okay. One of our comments is here, so the Cowgirls will have an control early, and the Eagles will take over the final third of the season. Do you agree with that, or do you think it's just going to be a tufted battle of constantly going like this on that leaderboard?
The wild part about that is, look at the Eagles' schedule. We got a bye in week 9. We played 5 teams. Played 5 teams that went to the playoffs last year. We got Detroit, Washington, like Houston, Tennessee, all within the first few weeks of the season. By the time the bye week come, Eagles could be 7-1. They have nobody to play. But the game is played to fail. Anything can happen. But I kind of agree with that comment. I think, Dallas may come out early out the gate, but like I say, Eagles going to take it towards the end of the season.
That's fair. What's your prediction or production for your tackle, Jordan Davis, who I've heard has had an amazing camp?
Man, this dude is a beast. And the sad part is he won't even start.
You don't think he'll start?
No, he's not going to start.
Okay.
That's what makes it so. That's so scary.
Jim is a rotational guy.
Yeah, but he's going to get his reps in, but he won't start until next year. But I think he's going to be a monster. He's a problem. But it's good for him to learn from guys like Fletcher Cox and those guys. So that was a great draft.
That's cool. So your prediction for him, how many sacks?
Let's go with 6.
You're going to go 6 sacks for a defensive tackle that's rotating?
Yeah. Because
Okay,
of who
that's
we play.
bold.
We got
Okay, that's
Tennessee with
six sacks for a
Tannehill.
DP in general
Yeah.
is very, very good.
Yeah, I give him 6. Tannehill is not mobile. Prescott is not mobile. You got Daniel Jones, who loves to run and fumble. He's not really mobile. Who's the quarterback for Washington?
Wins.
Oh look. Oh no.
Yeah, that'll probably be a strip sack.
No, we're gonna get 12 sacks that game. So no, I give him 6 though. I give him 6 because Eagles have a prone to have a lot of injuries too on the D line. So he's going to get reps.
Yeah. So you're a writer, and so I imagine you keep your eyes on training camp, like most of us do. Who's been the biggest disappointment at Eagles camp?
Hurts.
Really? Yeah, I'm hearing more it's Minshew, to be honest, but then he's a backup too.
Yeah, I would say Hurts because to me, he's trying too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like at this moment, let the game come to you. You have the talent around you, but you're too busy trying to impress the world.
Mm-hmm.
Just and your teammates is all you need, but you're pressing too hard. And then at the same time, he's still looking over his shoulder. There's really no vote of confidence. Like after the season, you are the guy, and he's still young, so he has not been on point like I think he should be on point. But what do I know?
Okay. I mean, he made great strides throughout the season last year.
Yeah,
it's just it didn't kind of come into fruition the way I suppose you guys wanted it to.
Yeah,
but
true.
He had a solid camp. He had an okay campaign. You got to the playoffs. You had a moment, and that's when you guys went right. We got to surround him with the best tools available. If he don't stack up, then he's not the guy. Like you can't surround this guy with this many weapons, this much talent, and him fade into the background. He's not allowed to do that. You've got no excuse. You've got to produce. That's what it seems. It's like the writing's on the wall for Hurts.
Yes, sir. I agree. Totally agree.
So, speaking of training camp, you got your first preseason game up against it's the Jets, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is the biggest takeaway you want to see against that Jets game?
Ooh, man. The biggest takeaway, defense. Even though I know our starters won't play as well, but we pretty much got a brand new secondary.
Mm-hmm.
We pretty much got a brand new linebacker core too. Okay, well, yeah, the defense has to show something. We had probably one of the worst defenses in the NFL last year. I think we ranked like 29th in passing yards, like 28th in passing touchdowns, and then we picked up Bradbury from the Giants. Of course, we got big game Slay back there, but our safety position is a problem. We picked up, I forgot the guy name. I probably Truitt. I probably say his name all wrong. Tariff, whatever his name is, from San Fran. But we need to be cohesive, and the only way to get that is the preseason reps. So I'm hoping that they get some time in. I think tomorrow night.
Yep.
Against the Jets. But that's the biggest thing that I'm looking for is defense.
For me, I would say if I was looking at your team, I would want to see Jalen Hurts throw.
They probably won't
what
play
you
him.
just told me, I want to see him throw. And the Buccaneers fan in me wants to see a bit more of Gardner Minshew because I looked his stats up. They ain't that bad for a backup.
Not bad at all.
They ain't bad. His touchdown to interception ratio is really, really good.
I like that too.
But I've heard he's had quite a bad camp, a very interception prone camp, but which doesn't mean anything really because it's camp, but it's something you don't want to see going into a season, ideally.
Sure.
Absolutely. What's been the biggest surprise at camp? So who's kind of shined that you didn't think would shine? That you're like, oh, this cat's a cat. This cat's a dude. This guy's ready to roll.
Kenneth Gainwell. You gotta remember the Eagles just re-signed. Oh my God, what's wrong with me tonight? Boston Scott to another 1-year deal. So out the blue, Gainwell, who was a rookie last year, he's taking Scott's reps. So I'm like, oh, and not even that. He's also taking some of Miles Sanders' reps with the first team. So I'm like, oh, okay, what the hell? I'm sorry. What's going on here with this young kid? So he's been a real big surprise. I hope he don't take too much of Miles Sanders' reps, but I mean, Gainwell has been a very big surprise this camp.
That's a good thing here because you always want a good 1-2 punch. If you got that, then you're not burning out one back. That's it, in my opinion. That the worst thing you can do to your back is just burn him out and burn him out. I think that's why Derrick Henry hasn't had those. I think he'd get a 2K season if he had a solid guy behind him.
Exactly.
Because he's running everything, and that takes a toll on the body eventually. You can't. Them linebackers, they like to hit. And they like to hit hard. I'm saying you don't want too many of those.
That's what the Giants made a mistake with Saquon Barkley. Like no backup. My man's been hurt like the last 2 years. Like no backup.
Having a backup makes a huge, absolutely huge difference for sure. So who do you think is going to be the worst team in your division? Is it definitely going to be the Giants? Or you don't think Saquon Barkley might just shine a little bit, or do you think it's enough?
Let me see what we got. 17 games this year. He might shine for 3.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough.
But like you said, they asked too much of him, man, and they don't have the receivers or the quarterback to take the pressure off of him.
No, and that's always something you need. You need someone who can get the ball out when needed to. For sure.
Yeah.
You guys are wearing a throwback this year. They're going to suck. You guys are wearing your throwback this year, is that right?
Yeah.
You got your throwback jersey ready?
Oh no. I haven't worn a jersey in I don't even know how long.
Okay. Who was your first jersey?
First jersey, Reggie White.
Oh, that's a name. That's a name to have there.
Yeah, so that also shows how old I am too.
As a kid?
Yeah, I have. Man, yeah, I was a young dude. That's how old I am. Yeah. Reggie White, Seth Brown, Seth Jordan, Jerome Brown. Those were my guys. Eric Allen. Yeah, Clyde Simmons. Woo. Buddy Ryan. Man, you got. Yeah, don't get me started.
That's awesome. So I'm going to go with one last one, which is more of a comedy question. How impressed were you with Jordan Matalas singing on The Masked Singer?
I didn't see it.
You didn't see it?
No.
Oh my God, that guy's got a voice and a half.
Wait a minute. If I'm not, because I always get this confused, so please don't make fun of me. Okay. Is this the guy? I always want to make sure. I need to look it up myself. This the guy who was drafted like in the 7th round, right? The soccer dude.
Australian. He played Australian rugby.
I'm sorry. Please don't kill me, Australian.
No, it's all right. I because I'm English, and it was a big deal.
One of the best linemen that we have. So his story is just amazing. I remember when they drafted him, he doesn't have a chance. He can't make it. Look at him. Mm-hmm. So this is the guy that was on the last team.
And he's proven it.
Yeah,
it took him a minute to get going, but he's definitely proven it for sure.
I'm gonna YouTube his performance.
Yeah, look it up. Trust me, it's really impressive. They never got him, but yeah, it was really, really, really good. Okay. So, Mark, where can we find you?
Whoa, Twitter, BX Reporter, website, RichKidMoneyBear.com, Instagram, RichKid Clothing Line. That's pretty much it for me.
Okay, man, no worries. That sounds good. Have you got anything coming up soon that you're doing?
About to launch the fall line. I have a speaking engagement August the 20th about the clothing line and other parts of the business. What else I got coming up? Nothing else, man. I live a boring life, man. Life. Oh no, I do got I think in February, I think I got a Super Bowl parade to go to. February. Yeah. So
I like it. I like the cockiness. I love it.
Yeah, man. I got that to go to. After we beat the Bucs in the championship, NFC championship game. You know what I'm saying?
I'm calling it now. I'm saying right now, if that happens, it will not go that way. What will happen? It will transpire the same way as it happened last time.
Ooh, no.
It won't be Rondé Barber this time.
No, if we do
play,
I'm saying all we gotta do is bring back Nick Foles for one game, because Brady's scared of him.
Bring him in for one. Big Nick Dick comes in, slings it, and then goes. Job done.
Nah. I'm just messing with y'all. A lot of you guys you deal with, my friends, they Bucs fans. So I'm gonna give them a hard time.
You guys, hey, it's football. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's what we do. Talk trash.
I love it. Mark, thank you for coming on the show. It's much appreciated. Great to talk a little bit of Eagles football.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Cheers, man. No worries. Thanks again.
All right.
Okay, that was Mark T. Wilson from RichKid Clothing. He was talking a little bit of Eagles football with us and the NFC East. So our final guest is Ricky Hester. He's a Packers guy, and we'll be talking about his Packers and the NFC North. Hopefully, he will be on soon. He's due to be on in the next minute or so. Hopefully, comes in. If not, I will call the show probably in the next 4 minutes. So we'll give him 4 minutes to get in, and we'll go from there. So we learned a little bit more about the enemy. I'm not sure I'm completely convinced that they're going to go to the Super Bowl and beat the Buffalo Bills and then beat the Bucs in the championship game. But hey, why not believe it if you're in their shoes? Because I know I would. I personally believe that the team that we beat in the NFC Championship game will probably be. I'm gonna go the Rams. I'm taking the Rams. I think the Buccaneers get their revenge in the NFC Championship game if we get to that point, for sure. But speaking of the Eagles, they do seem to have put themselves a better team. Could they go and make some noise? They got to go and beat them boys. Do they have what it takes to beat them? I personally believe they do. I think they win the division. I think there'll only be a game in it between the two of them. I think they will split their games against each other. But I think they have the more dynamic team in the sense of as long as their defense, as Mark was saying, as long as that defense turns up. I'm not sure I'm convinced that their backup defensive tackle is going to get 6 sacks, because 6 sacks for any defensive tackle is fantastic. So if you're not starting and you're getting 6 sacks, what are the other guys getting? 10? But hey, we all love our teams and we will have a lot of respect. And I believe that Jordan Davis is more of a nose tackle, and nose tackles don't normally get a heck of a lot of sacks. It's not what their job is. Their job is to create space to allow the interior and the defensive ends or edge rushers to get their sacks. So he's just a big guy. Vita Vea's sacks aren't that many, and that's because he eats up blockers and allows his teammates to get theirs. And they all know. There was a big talk a couple of I think it was the last 2 years that we've played and we've had Vita Vea, that Shaq Berry gets more sacks when Vita Vea's on the field than when he's not. Most of his sacks come from when Vita Vea's on the field. I'm not saying that's an absolute, that is what it is, but there's some proof in the pudding on what Vita Vea does for this football team. So we're now getting closer to the finishing mark. Hopefully, Ricky Hester will come on and talk some Packers football with us. We'll talk all the things about the psychedelics. We're going to talk about their unsung hero camp. We're going to talk about which position group that he's going to be interested in, which one's been making the most waves. The Eagles could upset the Rams in the playoffs. They could. To be honest, when we get to playoff football, knockout football, or playoff football, it's anyone's game. You just got to be on your game on the day. I do generally believe that any team can beat any team to a degree. The Eagles didn't have the greatest game against us when we played them in the playoffs, but this is a very different team. Same quarterback though, so not too worried about that. Rams seem to be the team to beat. The odds for for the teams came out. I don't do odds or anything like that, but the Buccaneers, the favorite from the NFC. I believe then it's Packers, and then it's Rams. If I remember correctly, for the AFC, it's Bills, Chiefs, and my brain goes blank. But yeah, we're going to talk about if they need another wide receiver. Are they going to go down a Cole Beasley route, maybe a Will Fuller and Emmanuel Sanders route, or will they wait a bit more time and go for somebody like Odell Beckham Jr. once he's recovered from his ACL injury? There is talent out there. You just got to go grab it. We want to also ask. We'll hopefully get a chance to ask him a few more questions about where does he grade the wide receiver core, who his unsung hero camp is. We're all interested to see how do Packer fans view what Aaron Rodgers going on Pat McAfee and busting with the boys. Has he created too much of a distraction, or is he just being a dude and putting I'm just being me, I'm just being honest, and he has that chance to talk. Corey Brown believes the Packers will not make the playoffs. Free place division finish. Okay. So Corey Brown, who have you got winning that division? Are you going to go with Minnesota? Are you going to go with the Bears? You're definitely not going with the Pack. Are you going to go with the Lions? I'm interested to see what you got, Corey Brown. Let me know what you got. And then we'll talk about which position group battle he's looking forward to seeing going up in their preseason game against the Niners. I did a draft quite recently where we get a bunch of guys to control all 32 teams. And I do apologize if I get any of these names wrong. I was the one, we all picked names out of a hat, and I was the one who ended up getting the Green Bay Packers. So this, you have to take into account other people are drafting. So it's not like the draft. So my first pick was Drake London at 22. Now, I do apologize for this guy because I cannot pronounce his name. My next pick at number 28 overall was Arnold Ibikie. I can't pronounce that. I do apologize. Edge rusher. John Mechie, the third at wide receiver. Then Darian Kennard, offensive tackle at 59. Then I went with Philodrian Mathis, the defensive tackle at 92. I went for Justin Schaffer at 120 at 132. Jelani Woods at 140. DeMarco Jackson at 171 overall, the linebacker. Then I went with Marquise Ball, the safety. At 229. And then I got 250 Sincere McCormick and running back Jasir Taylor at corner. Lions or Falcons will win the division in week 17. Okay. And you don't see the team that doesn't win? That draft was probably done in March. Yeah, that was definitely done in March because I was looking at it today. It wasn't recent. It's always done before the NFL draft. So I drafted there and then before the NFL draft actually started. So Corey Brown, you see that the Lions will snag the division, and you don't see the other two scraping through at all. I'd be interested to know who your sixth seed is. But yeah, that was a recent draft in the sense of March. So it was before the draft went through. I don't know when this kid is out for the year. Maybe I've goofed. I don't know. Who was my third? John Mechie. Okay. But he did get drafted high though. So for draft value, I did really well with him because I drafted him in the second round. I believe he was drafted in the first round. So I'll take that. But so I assume he got injured in training camp. Because when I did my research, I didn't hear anything about no injuries. All right, guys. I don't think Ricky Hester is going to join us and want to talk about the Pack. He's probably out there eating cheese or something. So, guys, anyone who's joined in the show, I want to thank you. It's much appreciated. He has leukemia. Shit. When was he diagnosed with that? Because I'm sure he was drafted in the first round. Damn. That's a horrible thing to have, especially at the age he's at. That's a hard thing to battle. But yes, guys, thank you for tuning in. It's much appreciated. We did have 2 guests that didn't come in. We made the most of it. I hope I've done you proud. And I hope you will have a great weekend. I will see you for training camp live with Slick and the Dude on Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern, so 2 a.m. for me. And yes, this shirt will be washed, but it'll be worn again. I believe it's my calling. Thanks again, guys. Comment, like, subscribe. It's much appreciated. And then unsubscribe, and then unlike, and then resubscribe, and then re-like. We count on it. It's much appreciated, and I will see you all soon. Thanks again for tuning in. See you, Fred. Have a good one, man. Peace.